people love to explain away someone else's success with one word: luck. It's the easiest way to make another person's win say nothing about your own choices. But luck isn't something that happens to you. Most of the time, it's something you spend years quietly building, long before anyone is watching or keeping score. Picture the scene. Final minute of a World Cup match. A striker takes a shot. It gets deflected off a defender, and the ball falls to another player standing a few yards away, completely unmarked. He taps it in. Stadium explodes, and the next day, half the headlines will call it lucky, wrong place, right time, an easy goal that fell into his lap. But ask yourself the actual question. How did he end up standing in the exact spot at that exact second with no one around him? That's not an accident. That's a striker who has spent thousands of hours training his positioning, reading the shape of a play before it happens, learning where a deflected ball is statistically likely to land. The goal looked effortless. The luck was manufactured over years by someone who kept showing up to practice on days he didn't feel like it, so that his body would already know where to be before his mind had time to think about it. Here's the first thing worth sitting with. Luck doesn't fall randomly across a stadium full of people equally. It finds the people who position themselves to receive it. An athlete who refuses to train will never find himself standing in that spot when the ball deflects his way, because he was never in the habit of getting there in the first place. Luck needs a location and a moment, and showing up consistently in the right locations at the right moments is a skill, one built entirely out of effort other people weren't willing to spend. The second thing is the counterexample people love to reach for: Bill Gates and his early access to a computer at school. The story gets told like it's the whole explanation: he got lucky, he had a machine most teenagers didn't have, end of story. But notice what that explanation conveniently skips. He wasn't the only student at that school. Dozens of other kids had access to the exact same computer in the exact same building during the exact same years. Only one of them spent virtually every free hour he had programming on it, logging thousands of hours of practice before he'd even finished high school. While everyone else with equal access treated it as a curiosity, the opportunity was shared, the obsession wasn't. Access explains why the door was open. It doesn't explain who was the only one who walked through it again and again until he knew the room better than anyone else alive. Michael Jordan's story follows the same shape from a different angle. He was cut from his high school varsity basketball team as a sophomore. Most people hear that and think it's a story about talent getting overlooked. It isn't. It's a story about what he did in the year after. Showing up earlier than his teammates, staying later, turning a public humiliation into fuel for an obsession with fundamentals that most naturally gifted players never bother developing, because they have never been told no. By the time people started calling him lucky for landing on championship teams surrounded by the right talent, they were describing the tail end of a decade of unseen effort, not the beginning of it. The Roman philosopher Seneca put a version of this into a single line centuries ago. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Notice that both halves of that sentence are required. Opportunity alone means nothing if you're not prepared to use it. You'll watch the ball deflect towards someone else because you were never in position. Preparation alone means nothing if no opportunity ever arrives. But here's the part people conveniently ignore. The more prepared you are, in the more rooms and situations you put yourself in, the more opportunities start to arrive, simply because you are one of the only people ready to catch them when they do. Now, I'm not going to pretend luck plays no role at all. Someone born into a wealthy family starts several steps ahead of someone born into a country at war, and no amount of effort erases that gap entirely. That kind of luck is real and is unearned in both directions, but that extreme comparison is exactly what people reach for when they want an excuse, because it's easier to point at the rarest cases than to admit that, for the overwhelming majority of people, the actual gap between them and someone more successful isn't the family they were born into, it's the hours they didn't put in. Even something as purely random as a lottery win proves the same point from the opposite direction. Yes, winning the lottery is luck in its purest form. Nothing you did earned the outcome. But notice the one non-negotiable step underneath it. You had to buy the ticket. The person who never buys a ticket has already guaranteed their own loss with total certainty before the draw even happens. Refusing to try isn't neutral. It isn't safely avoiding bad luck. It's actively manufacturing a guaranteed outcome and calling it fate instead of a decision. Think of it as a simple split. Any outcome you are chasing is 100%, and the question is how much of that 100 you supply yourself versus how much you're asking luck to cover on your behalf. The lottery buyer supplies about 1%, the act of walking into a store and buying a ticket, and then asks luck to carry the other 99, with essentially no say in the outcome. That's a real strategy, but it's the least reliable one that exists, because you have handed almost the entire equation to something you cannot influence. Now go back to the striker. He isn't showing up to training and hoping luck fills in 99% of the gap. He spent years closing the gap himself, the positioning, the reading of the play, the thousands of repetitions, until his own effort accounts for maybe 99 of why he was standing in the right spot. Luck only has to cover the last 10, the actual deflection, the split-second bounce of the ball. Gates and Jordan are the same math from a different angle. The more of that 100% you supply through effort, the smaller and less decisive the remaining slice left to chance becomes. But here's the part that holds the whole framework together. The luck-covered percentage, however small or large, only exists at all because of that first bit of effort underneath it. Zero effort isn't a smaller piece of the pie, it's no pie. The ticket has to be bought before there's anything left for luck to finish. So here's the real question underneath all of this. It's not, am I lucky? It's, how many tickets am I simply refusing to buy? How many times are you standing outside the exact positions where opportunity tends to land, telling yourself you are just unlucky, when the truth is you were never trained, never positioned, never present enough times for the deflection to have any chance of finding you? Luck rewards repetition. It rewards the people who showed up on the ordinary, unremarkable days when there was no game, no audience, and no guarantee it would ever pay off. So in simple terms, you don't get lucky, you create your own luck.